Extension 224.
The other stations claim to be local.
Yeah, right.
KCAA Radio, the only true local radio station on your radio dial.
Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about as the freak out continues. The MAGA world freak out continuing. Super Bowl of Grift continues. Day 2. My email box, don't know about yours, 74. Count them, 74 emails that referenced the FBI search of Trump Palace. All of them begging for cash. And, not just say, hey, give us cash. No, give us cash because we're going to protect you from the evil FBI so they don't kick in your door and break into your safe and take back the classified information that you've stolen. And more than half of them, and I love this, more than half of them reminded me that the IRS is coming too. And that I should be afraid, be very afraid, and of course give them my cash so that the IRS doesn't come after me, which is kind of a weird little bit that I should be giving them my cash away from the IRS. And I wonder if I can claim that anything that I do give them is tax deductible, in violation of the IRS. Again, when you start talking MAGA, you really get into some really twisted logic, doing some legal gymnastics on hypocrisy. And because remember, these are the folks who back the blue. They're the ones who are the law and order folks. They got the flag. They've got the flag. And how can you argue with the people who drive around with the flag, saying that they believe in law and order, that they're behind law enforcement, and yet January 6th, where they're beating law enforcement with the flag? Yeah, it's hard to justify. Now the freak out continues. One of the responses that I found really kind of interesting, Republican gubernatorial nominee Dan Cox from Maryland, he called the search of the Trump Palace criminal. It's criminal. And if he were elected, he would use the full force of the government to stop the government from coming in. He would use the state police. He would use the Maryland National Guard. He would oppose Joe Biden. He wouldn't let Joe Biden enforce those search warrants that Joe Biden had absolutely no freaking part in. In fact, didn't even know it was happening until it was happening. Because again, for those who don't know, we've got 3 branches of government, separate. 3 separate government branches. Biden wasn't in on this. Sorry. But according to him, he says, as governor, I will use the 9th and 10th Amendments, the Maryland Constitution, and the Declaration of Rights, the MSP, the Maryland Guard, to stand against all rogue actions of this out-of-control, tyrannical Biden administration with fierce tenacity. Give him credit. That's some good writing. He says it's nothing short than communist, Stasi police state tactics. He says our children, families, and loved ones, and the freedoms we cherish, and is our birthright as Americans, demand we oppose these criminal acts of this current administration. Never mind the criminal acts that precipitated the search warrant. Never mind that. Never mind the criming that went on. That is forgiven because it's, them that's doing it. Now, I go back to this and you go, well, gee, what could it be? Some of the thoughts on this is, my favorite one is the Espionage Act, because evidently it's a violation of the Espionage Act to steal documents. Something that they used against Edward Snowden, because he took a bunch of stuff. mishandling, gross negligence in dealing with classified documents, which, evidently the stories that we already know out there is Trump had boxes of this stuff. There's another law out there that says it's a federal statute that targets anyone who willfully or unlawfully conceals, removes, mutilates, obliterates, falsifies, or destroys public records. Now, in a true twist of irony, this is the fun part of all this, because again, fun in all of this, entertainment. If you remember the whole 2016 campaign, the chant, lock her up, yeah, we're going to lock her up, because she had emails that after she sent them, they retroactively made whatever she put in them classified, which sometimes they do. Donald Trump decided in 2018, January of 2018, that he was going to amend some of the laws that are oversee doing this kind of stuff. And what we know is he signed the bill then that included a provision increasing the punishment for knowingly removing classified material with the intent to retain them at an unauthorized location. Stealing, let's put it that way. He had boxes of this stuff that the National Archives went and looked at and wanted to get back. They wanted their stuff. We know that federal agents in this latest storming of the castle took a dozen boxes from Mar-a-Lago, quite possibly classified materials. And if that's the case, his own signature could have made this all felonies, which possibly could have put him in jail. Now, I do find it interesting that, we find this out thanks to Tennessee State Senator Jeff Yarbrough, who pointed out on Twitter that, Trump did this. Because if you go back to it, and I remember, when Petraeus got caught mishandling classified data, he was charged and pled, guilty and misdemeanor slap of the hand, don't do it again. He ended up having to retire and lost his career and all that. Sandy Berger, if you remember him in 2005, was stuffing documents in his briefcase because he just wanted to go home and use them. Little slap on the wrist. So what they decided is, and this is where Trump did this, he could face up to 5 years in prison because of his own signature. That brilliant. That I just find kind of poetic justice, because I think they thought at the time, this is what we're going to get her on her emails about. We're gonna get her. We're gonna get that nasty woman. And it would be funny if it turned around and bit his orange. Yeah, that took us. Let's go with took us. Let's go there. Interesting little tidbit over on the F channel. Jim Banks, Republican from Indiana, head of the Republican Study Committee. He said that Trump was very upbeat after the storming of the palace, and that he has now officially made up his mind about 2024. Not going to tell the rest of us just yet, but he's made up his mind. When he said we're going to likely like his decision. And I'm going, you think? I hope he runs. I do. I hope he runs. Because if nothing more, the entertainment value. And that we continue to dig into the crimes of the 4 years that were there. Now, what I find interesting is how the Republicans have freaked out and are circling the wagons. Rand Paul on the F channel. Again, the F channel. That's right, the Republican terrorist network. He's suggesting, and I'm kind of finding this interesting, that the FBI, and this is where the plot thickens. You gotta love a good conspiracy. The FBI, here it is, planted evidence in the boxes that they then took out. So they took stuff in while nobody was looking. They planted it in the box, and then they brought the boxes out for everyone to see. Yeah, you can't make this up. Now, here's the problem with that. What we now know is that video footage from the past couple of weeks, I guess, have been seized as well. So movement in those areas are going to be able to be tracked. And with video footage everywhere, because again, the Secret Service, they've got the video stuff that makes sure all this protected. Part of having Secret Service protection. So they're going to know the movings in and out of whatever boxes are moved around and who did what and why and how. Could be interesting. And again, the conspiracy, because now people are wondering, gee, who ratted the Don out? I mean, that's all the buzz right now. Who is it? Who could it be? And that's the question, isn't it? Because why now? And, because they went, the Justice Department went, the National Archives people went, I believe, and looked in boxes and reclaimed a bunch of stuff that, let's not say stolen, let's use a softer word, procured. They just happened to, involuntarily procure a bunch of material that wasn't theirs. And they brought it home with them. And the Department of Justice, their investigators went through the boxes and took back, if you remember, it was like a dozen boxes they took during that visit. Now they've got another dozen boxes, I guess. And this is one of those things where I know Trump world's losing their mind, but this could all be settled. And I'm glad finally someone in the media is going, but Rick, you were right yesterday. Why don't they just say, here's the search warrant, here's what they were looking for, here's where they were looking, here's what they were looking for, because they have to say that. And evidently, Christina Bobb, who is Trump's lawyer, she said that they have this document, even though Eric Trump said, oh, no, we never got anything. And look, in Eric's defense, he's an idiot. And you wouldn't give an idiot anything of importance. So, yeah, there is this. But fun times ahead. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Is this a big deal, storming of the palace? Do you care? Is this going to move the needle in MAGA world, or is this going to dig them in deeper and make the conspiracies worse and give them more reason to, to double, triple, quadruple down? 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. Love to hear your thoughts. Jump in on that, because I'm going, we're pulling apart on this, where this should be one of those moments where you go, where any citizen should go, I want to know what he had. Because for me, look, full disclosure, I want to see him in an orange jumpsuit, picking up litter on the side of the highway, without question. But I want to know what he had. And I want to know why he had it. I want to know what he was going to do with it. I think we should know that. Just my thoughts. Love to hear yours. 1-866-416-RICK. 1-866-416-7425. Quick break. Right back after this. Stick around.
If you're a fan of the show, you've heard our labor history in 2 segments, and you can hear them on the radio pretty much anywhere in the U.S. Labor history has never been more important than it is right now. So here's what we'd like you to do. Tell a teacher. Tell a teacher that labor history is important and that they can get digestible 2-minute lessons that are absolutely free. Free to download, free to use, free to share. Tell a teacher to go to thericksmithshow.com/history and help us put labor back where it belongs, in the classroom. Generations of American workers fought, bled, and died to build the American way of life. It's our job to keep their stories alive. Go tell a teacher that we're here to help them do just that. Find us at thericksmithshow.com/history today.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. Question, comment, something on your mind. Want to hear it? Let's go to the phones. Got Christopher in Chicago. Christopher, what's on your mind?
How you doing, Rick? What's going on tonight?
Living the dream. What's up, brother?
Now, listen, I want to tell you, first of all, I am a 705 Teamster out of Chicago, and I agree with a lot of what you say about labor and the labor movement, but pretty much everything else you say, I'm like, what are you talking about?
Okay, well.
I mean, you trust the FBI?
I trust the FBI a lot more than I trust Donald Trump.
Oh, really? The people who burned 86 citizens in Waco, shot Randy Weaver, tried to kill MLK, Operation Midnight Climax.
Here's the thing. If we follow conservative logic, Christopher, had those people just come out, that wouldn't have happened.
Oh, so it's okay to shoot a woman with her child on the porch of their home. Do you even know what happened with Randy Weaver in that case? Do you understand what they entrapped him? Do you understand what they did to him?
Well, the place to fight those things, Christopher, is in a court of law, not on the side of the road.
Okay.
Isn't that what we tell everyone else when shootings happen? Isn't that what we say, that the court of law is where we have these things, not at the end of a gun? Isn't that it?
No, we're also not supposed to kill American citizens. No,
right?
We're not.
But do you believe in the rule of law or don't you, Christopher? One way or the other.
I don't.
You got two choices.
I don't believe
you got two choices, buddy.
No, we don't. No, we don't.
Yeah, you do.
We don't have two choices anymore.
All right.
So what about the Russia collusion hoax? That was the FBI. Stephen McCabe, Comey lying to people. These are the people you put faith in?
That wasn't a hoax. That wasn't a hoax, Christopher. There was coordination between the Manafort just admitted that he handed over the documents that he was accused of. Just admitted it.
What did they?
He just admitted that yes, he gave, but it wasn't for the reasons that you thought. No, it wasn't for the reasons of the campaign. No, we were just going to do business dealings. My intentions were pure, Christopher. Trust me. Trust me.
What? No, I don't trust the FBI. I don't trust our government anymore. I don't trust these people. They're career politicians who are embedded in the system. I've had this conversation with you. I despise Mitch McConnell just as much as I despise Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
No, I distrust government as much as anyone, but you know what? We've got to figure out how we move forward. All we've got in this country, Christopher, is the rule of law. Once that goes away, we've got chaos.
The rule of law. The rule of law. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Hunter Biden laptop story. The rule of law. Mm-hmm.
Why do I care about Hunter Biden's laptop? Why is that? Why is that? Is he anywhere near our government, Christopher? The answer is no. Don't care about Hunter. If Hunter Biden is guilty of a crime, he should be arrested and he should go to jail. I don't care about it outside of that. Why is that your focus? Why are you not so concerned about what the former president has got in his possession? Classified information. Who knows what he could have been doing with it? Could he have been selling it to the? Who knows? Or could he have been just going, oh, hey, look at the shiny thing that I've got next to my golden toilet? Are you freaking kidding me? This is where you're going to go?
You're assuming that because you hate the man. I
don't hate the man.
Aggressive. Yes, you do.
No, I hate what he's done to this country and ripped us apart and poisoned the minds of people like you, Christopher. Jeez.
Oh, so you're saying I'm stupid. You're saying I'm dumb.
I'm not saying you're dumb. I say you're over misinformed. I got to go. But I appreciate the call, buddy. Please entertain us again another time. Let's go to line one. I got Alice over here. Alice, what's on your mind? Alice, you there?
I'm here.
I thought we lost you. Go.
Well, the only thing I have to say is your previous caller is a perfect example of what MAGA world is doing. I've been hearing it from all of the Trump supporters that, it's all fake news, a setup, planting, blah, blah, Hunter Biden, the whole 9 yards. So I think it is I don't know. I think the big thing we missed in adding in the infrastructure bill was we should have put in more money in there to build more mental hospitals because we certainly need them for the MAGA crowd.
There you go. Good stuff.
Have a good evening.
Appreciate it. Yeah, there's a good place. There's a good place to start. No, look, at the end of this, I'm distrustful of government as anyone else is. I want people held accountable. But in looking at this moment, this was signed off by a judge. This is going to be the most high-profile bit that we're going to see. This will be the most highly scrutinized. At the end of the day, if they did screw up, and I don't think they did, someone will be held accountable. That's how our system is supposed to work. It's supposed to be the rule of law. If we're going to take this stuff into the streets, we don't have much left as a country. And I love the conspiracy theories. Oh, what about Waco? Well, you know what? The same people who say, well, you know, if that black kid didn't run away, he wouldn't got shot in the back 69 times. If he'd have just paid attention and just did what he was told, he wouldn't have gotten shot 69 times. Those are the same people saying, what about Waco? Well, had they just gone and said, hey, we'll go through the court system and follow the rule of law, you wouldn't have had that. It's lunacy. And what's happened is, and this is the crazy part of this, is where we're just being shredded apart. And there's a moneyed interest continually pushing this at us. Because then again, I keep coming back to the reality that for the last 45 years, we've been getting robbed as a working class. Every time we turn around, our paychecks are smaller, our benefits are going away, our standard of living is getting worse. So they feed us this stuff to keep us pitted against each other, divided, hating each other, distrusting ourselves. Because look, our government is ours. If there's a problem with it, it's a problem with us, and we have to fix it. But we've been fed this, and look, Trump has done a masterful job of destroying institutions and getting people to distrust the institutions. The institutions that he was part of. The FBI that he appointed the guy to head of. Because remember, Christopher Wray, the guy who signed off on this, his guy. But never mind those details. And this stuff, oh, they're just career bureaucrats. Yeah, they're career bureaucrats. I want career bureaucrats. I want people who know what they're doing. I don't want a system of loyalty and patronage. I don't want a system of ideology swinging from one extreme to the other. We're heading towards dangerous waters because we all have our own, it seems, our own set of polar facts. I haven't made my choice on what's going on here with Trump. What I'd like to see is one thing, but the reality of what's possible, I don't know. It is what it is. Maybe we can, I don't know. I'm going to take a quick break right here. When we come back, we're going to have our good friend Mateus Fernango going to share some thoughts on where we are on the economy as polling numbers for the president. Approval ratings up. That's an interesting thing as the economy seems to be turning back around as we're going in a different direction. At least I hope. Love to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Right back after this. If you miss any portion of the program, make sure you grab the podcast. Always there, always available. Share with your friends. Quick break, right back. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1922. That was the day 1,300 workers from 4 railroad brotherhoods walked off the job in Joliet, Illinois, near Chicago. The walkout threatened to paralyze freight service for steel mills in nearby Gary and other regional industries. 400,000 railroad shopmen had been on strike across the country for nearly 7 weeks. Newspaper headlines that day warned a general strike of 2 million trademen loomed on the horizon. Brotherhood leaders promised sympathy strikes in response to threats made against their members by troops on duty at railroad centers and yards.
there were also real concerns about the health and safety of trainmen, given rolling stock was no longer being maintained. In Joliet, workers stayed away under threats from troops. Additionally, Illinois Central trainmen faced threats from striking miners throughout Kentucky and Illinois, who warned, "Stop transporting non-union coal or suffer the consequences." Resentment had been building up against state guard troops stationed in Illinois yards. Earlier in the week, striking shopmen had engaged in a fatal confrontation with Joliet sheriffs that left a striker and a railroad detective dead and scores injured. Riot orders were called when authorities sought to arrest striking shopmen who had stormed the home of a scab. Brotherhood workers refused to return to work unless the troops were removed. Warren Stone, president of the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers, stated, quote, "We are not going to have our men shot up or beaten up or threatened by armed guards at railroad shops and yards. When the men cannot go to work without having irresponsible armed guards endangering their lives, they may go home and stay there. There will be 100 more cases soon if conditions are not changed." Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
Work your fingers to the bone. What do you get? Bony fingers. This 1960s song, mocking the vaunted virtue of working hard, is being sung today with new meaning by all kinds of employees, from factory workers to teachers, and even a few upper-floor executives. The rebellion here is not merely over low pay, but particularly about the unrelenting nature of work itself, the all-consuming job imperative, as if that's your life. Go 40 to 60 hours a week, 50 to 52 weeks a year for half a century or more, then die. Is that all there is? Is that all we are? Amazingly, this existential, truly revolutionary question is one that millions of hardworking people today throughout our top-down corporate system are asking themselves, their families, and friends. Why are we working like this? Why does it matter? What else is there? Airline pilots, for example, have stunned the industry by prioritizing non-monetary demands in their current contract negotiations with the Big Four monopolistic airline giants. The bosses have offered 14% pay hikes, but pilots are demanding something more meaningful, structural changes to improve their quality of life. They're routinely frustrated by management's inept scheduling, inadequate staffing, and onerous work rules that leave them stressed out, dangerously fatigued, and even stranded far from home. The bottom line is not to get another dollar, but being able to plan and enjoy a non-work life. You absolutely cannot address quality of life with money, says the president of the Pilots Union at Southwest Airlines. You're never going to pay someone enough for a lost piano recital with their daughter or a lost baseball game. This is Jim Hightower saying, there are many compromises required to make a living these days, but we humans are finally beginning to say, enough. You can buy my hard work, but not my life.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. Questions, comments, something on your mind, give us a call. Let's go to the phones. Got Rachel in Chicago. Listen to WCPT AM 820. Rachel, what's on your mind?
Yes, hello, sir. I'm listening to that last caller that you had, and this guy wants to. Oh, let me cut off my radio.
Yeah, do that.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. So anyway, so this guy calls you, and he pretends to be passive, and, oh, yeah, I agree with you. He threw you a little nugget. And then he turned, and then went full Trump. Don't fall for this crap. In fact, I think all of these radio, I'm so tired of litigating and re-arguing stuff that we see, plain facts in our face, okay? We don't have to prove nothing. The stuff is in the court. If these people want to call into your show, you should just ask them straight out. Are you calling in to argue for Trump, or are you just calling in to give an honest conversation or whatever? These people are a joke. They want to, he took you all the way back to Waco. You don't have to answer him about Waco. That's irrelevant right now. And in fact, like I'm telling you, Screener, there's absolutely no institution, nothing in this world that has behaved honorably and honestly. And, you know, so there's failures, going to be failures throughout our history on all of these institutions. The FBI this year, maybe it's the presidency next year. But Trump has taken this so far that I just can't.
I'm with you.
I just can't.
I got you, Rachel.
Yeah, I just can't. Yeah, there's no arguing no more.
I got you.
Don't argue with these people no more. We shouldn't have to do that.
That's right. They're five. Let them go.
Before.
I'm with you. Appreciate the call, Rachel. Thanks so much.
Yes, sir. Hey.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Let's go to Jim real quick over. Also from Chicago, listening to WCPT AM 820. Jim, how are we doing tonight?
Good, Rick. How about yourself?
I'm living the dream. What's on?
Tonight seems to be the night for Chicago, so I kind of agree more with what your last caller said. But as far as the first caller, you talk about how it's us and it's up to us. We failed that test in 2016. I hope we don't fail again in 2024. But part of the problem with us was your first caller from Chicago, who seems to just buy into all the BS these people feed. So I want to give him a sample of a baby step to kind of try to make them understand just the hypocrisy of the other side. It's simple, but yet maybe is this what we need to do? Just yesterday, Marjorie Taylor Greene said they should abolish and defund the FBI. She said defund the FBI.
Yeah.
What would the other side do today if Nancy Pelosi or AOC would have made that comment?
It was what they had done for the last year, screaming the Democrat. In fact, there's a sign not more than a mile from my house going, Josh Shapiro wants to defund the police. I love when the law and order people say we should defund the law and order people.
Exactly. So, your guy from Chicago, just pay, and others, just pay attention to the little stuff. All you gotta do is pay attention to what they say and what they do, and you've said it before yourself. When they say that we're doing something on our side, you best look under the covers, because they're doing the same things
Absolutely.
themselves. Rick, you're doing a great job, and thanks again.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. Good stuff. Love to hear your thoughts. Also, if you want to email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Some good news, though. The approval ratings of the president bumping up, and I blame this on Democrats, who have finally got their heads out of their behinds and starting to go, hey, maybe Joe's not such a bad guy. Maybe all these wins that we've been racking up, the historic infrastructure bill, going to do some roads and bridges. Oh, this historic, maybe something on the climate. Maybe we're going to do something. I've been hearing about this historic climate thing in the Reduction Act. What's so historic about it? Well, here to share some thoughts on what is historic about the Inflation Reduction Act and how it's going to help and why it's such a big deal. I've asked Sally Hardin to come talk with us. She's the Senior Director of Energy and Environment Advocacy at the Center for American Progress, AmericanProgress.org, their website. Sally, thanks for taking time for us.
Thanks so much for having me, Rick. I'm really excited to talk more about the climate investments.
I appreciate you sticking around for us through a couple of calls. Had to get through those. But this is a big deal. I mean, this is, in my lifetime, the first time, second time we've done something on climate. The first time, obviously, when I was a kid, Jimmy Carter put the solar panels for the hot water in the White House, on the White House. And then Ronald Reagan came and ripped them off and oil for the next 40 years. But this is a big deal, isn't it?
It's a huge deal. It makes a difference. It's the make or break. I think we were feeling pretty despondent before this, and now this really means we could actually hit our climate goals.
And how are we going to do this? Because we hear that a lot. We hear we're going to finally do something. There's money in this, and how's it going to do this? Are we going to build windmills? Are we going to put solar panels on houses? What's the path forward on this?
Totally. I think the really exciting thing about this legislation is that it's chock full of investments and money for programs. So it's all the carrots, it's all the good stuff that we can build our clean energy economy on moving forward. So it's not just about cutting climate pollution, which it's going to do. It's going to cut climate pollution by approximately 40% by 2030. And our goal is 50%. So if we match it with executive action from the president, we can get there. But it will also cut costs for families and create jobs here at home. So we're looking at approximately up to nearly $2,000 for families who choose to take advantage of all of the rebates and other tax incentives and tax credits in the legislation. You'd see that on average in cost savings annually if you do choose to electrify your home, get an electric vehicle, et cetera. And even folks who decide not to switch over, who decide they're happy with what they have, are going to see an average annual cost savings of approximately $500 as we move towards cleaner and cheaper and more secure sources of energy, like, as you said, solar, wind, hydrogen, all kinds of good stuff that is much more renewable in the long term than the fossil fuels that we're currently dependent on and that have, as we noticed from all of our gas prices recently, become much more volatile.
And now the right's going to tell you, Sally, that electric vehicles are just too expensive. I can't afford one. My neighbors can't afford one. They're too expensive right now. So your vision of this is going to help everyone is not everyone. What's the response to that?
Yeah, and that's a great point. And so there's two pieces to that in this legislation. The first is that we get a $7,500 tax credit on new vehicles and a $4,000 tax credit on used vehicles for families at the point of sale. So that is up to 30% savings on an electric vehicle. But your point is well taken, and those vehicles are still expensive, particularly because there's not a huge supply of them here in the US. And so the other part of the bill is that it invests big in our manufacturing sector. It helps expand and engage manufacturing plants that are already creating autos and help them switch over to electric vehicles, and helps create new electric vehicle plants. And the bonus on all of this is that it gives an extra incentive for vehicles that are built here in the United States with using US labor. So it's kind of a win-win-win when you look at it. Good for the consumer, good for our manufacturing sector, and great job creator.
See, right here is the number one reason that I like Joe Biden and I want him in the White House. The fact that you're looking at dealing with climate change, which I think eventually everyone's going to come around to, that we're going to have to. But the fact that looking at manufacturing and reshoring our manufacturing and making those jobs American jobs, and not just American jobs, but union jobs. The fact that he has made that point time and time again, that these should be union jobs with good wages, good benefits, a path to job security and retirement, and all of those things that people like me who have been fortunate enough to be in a union my whole life have taken for granted over these years. I think that's really, really important, and I don't think it gets enough attention when we talk about this stuff.
Yeah, I super agree with you, and I mean, I'm sure your listeners have heard the refrain from President Biden where he says, "When I hear climate change, I think jobs," and I think he's really turning that into action with this legislation. Again, the bill is supposed to create approximately 1.5 million new jobs in the clean energy sector by 2030. So just building on the jobs that we already have there now, which have been expanding significantly. And it attaches, like you said, significant benefits for things built here in the United States. There's also prevailing wage requirements, so ensuring that people are paid a good wage as they deserve to be. And there's also support for registered apprenticeship programs, so ensuring that we're not just transitioning the workforce, but providing the training that's needed to get to that next level.
Now, again, I want to highlight this because I have to be divisive and partisan. But you point out something that was music to my ears. There's a prevailing wage part of this that I know that my friends in the Republican side of the aisle were dead set against. And were there any Republicans that voted for this?
Sadly, there were no Republicans that voted for this bill.
Yeah, interesting how that just didn't seem to happen. Because I think this is one of the most pro-American bills you can have. We're going to deal with climate, but more importantly, we're going to invest in manufacturing. And I believe manufacturing is a national security issue. If we have the capacity to build the next generation of electric vehicles and the next technology, it's going to put us so much farther ahead globally that it gives us an advantage that I think we desperately need.
I think that's exactly right. We're building the industrial policy of the 21st century here with this legislation, and coupled with President Biden and Congress's achievements on the CHIPS and Science Act, on the infrastructure bill, which I know you mentioned before, and with Biden's Buy America initiative, we're really going to ensure that we are not outsourcing our clean energy economy to China and other competitors, but that we're investing in the manufacturing that we need to do it here at home, creating those jobs and transitioning our economy at the same time. That's exactly right.
You're listening to the Rick Smith Show. We're here with Sally Hardin. She's the Senior Director of Energy and Environment Advocacy at the Center for American Progress. AmericanProgress.org is their website if you want to check out the work that they do there. Now, a moment ago, you talked about cost cutting. And I'm curious how that is going to work. You talked about incentives to do stuff. Are we talking about, you putting electric heat pumps in your homes, new appliances? What kind of rebate things are we talking about, or don't we really know yet?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's very specific programs in the bill written right in there that I'm happy to run through. I don't want to bore your listeners, but it's exactly what you said. It's things like home energy efficiency, including 50% for middle-income households and up to 100% for low-income households, cost sharing for an energy efficiency switchover. There is 30% off the cost of rooftop solar. So if you're thinking about switching to solar, thinking about updating your home energy system, that's an average savings of up to $7,000. There's a total of $14,000 per household to switch over to electric appliances. So that's, again, that's up to 50% of the cost for middle income households, 100% of the cost for low income households. We're not going to leave people out here to dry. We want to make sure everyone is getting in on the clean energy economy of the future. But it's like what you said, it's $8,000 for a heat pump, which is maybe not the most sexy appliance, but it's an air conditioner in the summer and a heater in the winter. So it kind of does the double duty of what we have now without relying on fossil fuels. It's up to $840 for an electric induction cooktop. So that's cleaner indoor air quality. And it's up to $9,000 for improvements in your broader home energy system. So including your home insulation, as well as wiring, et cetera, that sort of thing. And so it really is a big deal. And again, if you don't own your home, or you live in affordable housing or have multifamily rental units, there's up to $400,000 in assistance for whole building energy retrofits. So I realize I'm getting in the weeds here with these kind of numbers, but know that they are big and that they are available, and that they'll be available pretty quickly after the bill is passed for people to apply for. And you'll see those rebates in your April 2023 tax filings.
No, I'm sitting here making notes going, yeah, well, thanks, Joe Biden, because we just replaced the stove a while ago and got a new dishwasher. Thanks for taking so long to get this done, because now I can't take advantage of any of this. I've already got solar panels on the house. Now, thanks, Joe Biden. It's all Joe Biden's fault. I'm not going to get credit for any of this stuff. Thanks, Joe.
You'll still see that $500 in energy cost savings, even though you've already switched over. Other people, as they get there, you'll still see a big reduction in your utility bill every year.
At least there's something in that. So let me ask you this, because, we're moving everything to electric. And one of the concerns now will be, since you're moving everything to electric, do we have the capacity? Our grid, if you saw what happened in Texas, not so sure. Lots of questions going on. Do we have the capacity? Is there something in this going to help us build? Because I've always said I'd like to see homes be energy independent. Solar, geothermal. Some other things to help us. Get off grids. Maybe not be so centralized. Is there something to help with that? Maybe rewire. I remember back in '92, Jerry Brown ran on the idea of rewiring the entire country because of the massive amount of energy lost in transmission lines, which is really wonky and boring, but important. But that was 1992, and still haven't done that yet, by the way. Anything on that front to help us?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that most of that grid failure was thanks to fossil fuels. The natural gas couldn't handle the capacity load that was coming in at that time. So it's actually fuel sources as opposed to the grid, but that's wonky, like you said. And yes, so while there was not a big influx of funding for transmission specifically, there's these massive clean energy tax credits that are not just for the consumers like us, but also for the burgeoning clean energy industry. So solar companies, wind companies who have been kind of just like, are they, won't they, will they, like, are they going to invest in us? The answer is yes. They're getting huge incentives to expand clean energy deployment, to really get out there and make their businesses larger, to expand how much they're putting on the grid, and ensuring that the clean energy takeover of the grid is moving at a faster speed, is moving at at the pace that we need to both fight climate change and ensure that we continue to have a very reliable source of electricity. And I will also say that all kinds of studies have shown that clean electricity is is as reliable, if not more reliable, than traditional fossil fuels when it comes to the grid. And plus, I think it's worth noting that those clean energy sources are not creating the climate pollution that causes the extreme weather that causes our grid to fail, right? So as we clean up the grid, we will also hopefully have fewer major storms and disasters that are wrecking that grid at the same time.
No, this all sounds great, and I'm hoping everyone's getting really excited and thrilled, and this is fabulous, and we've built to this massive moment of applause. But here's my problem. Again, I remember being a kid going, "Hey, the future's going to be great. We're going to have solar panels because Jimmy Carter's put panels on the White House." And then there was a change of leadership, which, 24 is just around the corner. We could have another Reagan moment, and then they pull the rug out from under us again. And, well, we're stuck with the drill, baby drill for the next 50 years. What are the possibilities of that happening?
Yeah, great question. So first off, I would, again, be remiss if I didn't mention that because this was a Senator Manchin deal, which is shocking and amazing that he pulled it out at the end, there were some handouts to fossil fuel industry in this bill. So that's not going away entirely, and it's worth noting that. Also, I think the key thing here is that it's not about investing in the government as much as it's about investing in the market and investing in families and households. So, if the administration changes in 2024, they can't take the solar panels off your house that you've installed. They can't take that money back from you. So all of that is moving forward, even with a change in administration. It's a law, and it would be a lot for them to take away that law. And the funding hits the ground running as soon as the bill is passed, which we expect the House to pass it this Friday.
Right.
So I think it's very exciting to see that.
But Sally, they could do what they did here in Pennsylvania, what the Republicans did in my state. We put solar panels on our house back in 2011, I believe it was, when the SREC credits were $250 a credit. And the share of solar in our portfolio was like 5%, and Republicans have done nothing to move that needle. And now the SRECs are about worth, I don't know, last time I checked a cup of coffee, about 30 cents, maybe 50 cents at best. So they destroyed the whole system that it was based on. So yeah, we still got solar panels and we're still doing great. Produces about half of our electricity, which is fabulous. But the other part of the incentive they destroyed on purpose, and in essence, destroyed the industry in this state to where the person who put them on our house doesn't even do it in the state anymore. They all go to New Jersey, where the SREC credits are like $600 a credit. And doing very well, thank you very much, because they've got smart policy over there in New Jersey, where Pennsylvania is still, well, bought and paid for by corporate interest. So is there something to help on that front?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where it comes down to just how much is getting invested in the solar and wind industries. So those industries are going to grow no matter what happens with state policy, no matter if Pennsylvania keeps being a little bit more backwards than New Jersey. I hate saying that, but here we are. And so I think the share of solar and wind in our energy mix writ large is just going to be so much greater that even if you don't have solar panels on your house, you're still going to be feeling those benefits. And so it's kind of going to be like one of those things, like once you flip the switch, it is off and running in a way that we haven't seen yet. That's why this is historic. That's why this is a total game changer. And, I think we'll really see the market shift. We'll see the clean energy industry just take off. And that's really exciting.
No, that is exciting. This has happened to us a bunch of times. I mean, I remember when Obama was president, we were talking about solar, and there was going to be a bunch of investment, and all of a sudden, conservatives and the Republican masters ripped it out from us. This is actually law. This is actually moving forward. This, right? This is going to happen.
This is really happening, and this is a really big deal. Like, when Obama was president, we tried to pass climate legislation in 2010, and it failed. It failed in the Senate, and that was devastating. It upset climate advocates for a decade. They finally got their act together. We finally got our act together, and it is really happening this time. Again, unless, fingers crossed, anything happens in the House on Friday, which seems very unlikely, this bill is going to hit the president's desk next week, and we're going to see it signed into law. We're going to see these investments hit companies, hit households, and we're going to hit the ground running.
So as I've said, I want Barack Obama to show up. And I want him to stand behind President Biden and say this is a big blanking deal. I want him to say that, because this is a big blanking deal, because this is much harder to get done than what Obama did during his term to get even the ACA passed. Because if you remember, Democrats still had 57 Democrats in the Senate and 2 independents. they had a much bigger margin.
That's exactly right. And I've already seen on Twitter and other social media that President Obama has acknowledged that this is, I think it's something like 5 times larger than the clean energy investments in the American Recovery Act that were part of his administration. And he's ready to hand over that torch. He's ready to be like, you know what? This is the biggest climate deal in history.
There you go. Maybe he'd put on those comfortable shoes he didn't use during his administration and get out there and sell the deal. But Sally, I appreciate you taking some time for us. Great stuff. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Good stuff. Sally Hardin. Again, she is the Senior Director of Energy and Environment Advocacy at the Center for American Progress. AmericanProgress.org is their website. Check that out. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Would you put solar panels on your house? I got to tell you, we're happy with ours. Are you interested in the investments part of it? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com, or give us a call, 1-866-416-RICK. Back after this. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1931. That was the day that the Airline Pilots Association affiliated with the American Federation of Labor. The need for pilots to organize became apparent as early as the mid-1920s. The airline industry was new, and pilots often faced dangerous conditions. They were often put under pressure to fly under adverse conditions, especially if they were tasked with delivering the mail. As the Great Depression swept the country, pilots were asked to fly more and more hours for less money. The organization of pilots started off small and in secret, but soon it grew. In 1930, the union got its unofficial start, holding its first convention the following year. David Bank was elected the first president. Bank had served as a flight instructor for the U.S. Army. He then led the Bank Flying Circus, performing air shows all across the Midwest. From there, he went to work for a private airmail service. As union president, Bank established the organization's headquarters in Chicago. Over the years, as plane technology has changed, the union has fought to ensure the continued safety for the pilots. Pilot fatigue, as well as security concerns, especially after the terrorist attacks of 9/11, have also been important issues for the union. Today, the Airline Pilots Association represents more than 50,000 pilots flying for 31 airlines in the United States and Canada. Their mission statement begins with the commitment to, quote, promote and champion all aspects of aviation safety throughout all segments of the aviation community.
I'm learning to fly, but I ain't got wings.
Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
So, interesting story yesterday. I just wanted to throw this out here real quick. I've been a Broncos fan since I was a little kid. Hold it against me if you have to, wherever you are in the country. I grew up in Cleveland, a Broncos fan, so I've taken worse than you can give me. But this hurts. This actually hurts, and I've got to tell you, maybe thinking my allegiance. The NFL just approved a $4.6 billion sale of the Broncos to one of the Walton heirs. Yeah, and understand, the Walmart is the biggest recipient of welfare, food stamps, Medicaid, and that across in the country. So I'm kind of, I'll be honest, I'm a little torn today, a little torn because my beloved Broncos now owned by Walmart. Tell me what you think. Should I remain a Broncos fan? And if not, where should I go after that? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com.
I am confident the Inflation Reduction Act will endure as one of the defining legislative feats of the 21st century.
Green News reports special coverage. U.S. Senate passes landmark climate legislation.
That landmark And more straight ahead from BradBlog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
Our bill reduces inflation, lowers costs, creates millions of good-paying jobs, and is the boldest climate package in U.S. history.
Also, coincidentally, the only climate package in U.S. history. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, snarky, yes, but it's true.
Yes.
This is the only climate package anywhere near this size in U.S. history, and it is a big deal.
Yes, it most definitely is. First, one of the reasons why this bill is so important.
KCAA Loma Linda, 10